I have a very special video for you guys. As you know, I don't normally do interviews, but so many people have been asking me about Nuls, what's going on with Nuls 2.0, what's going on with the brand new staking SCO. So I decided to do an interview with David of Nuls, who is the foundation director, and he has a lot of exciting things to share with you guys. So you don't want to miss this video. All right. So thank you for joining me, David from Nuls. I know this is very short notice, so thank you for coming on board.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
I know Nuls, a lot of my fans, a lot of my subscribers, long time Nuls supporters. I've been talking about Nuls since 2017, and a lot of things have changed since 2017. So I'm hoping to get some more clarification from you in terms of what has happened and some of the new developments. That's very exciting right now. So let's start out with number one. All right. And I know even though a large population of my subscribers know about Nulls, but some are always new and they're not quite familiar with the project. So can you explain briefly in layman's terms what Nulls is about and why people should care?
Right. A great question, George, and thanks again for having me. So I think to put it real simplistically is Nuls was founded back in 2017. The founders, the co-founding team, their simple mission, and we always go back to this, is to make blockchain easier to use and more widely adopted. That's the mission.
Right.
Where we've been since then, our mainnet went live in 2018, July of 2018. That was 1.0, and it's a modular architecture that allows you to basically plug and play modules to build your own blockchain. Since then, we've incorporated microservice architecture, which basically decouples those modules so that it makes them even more independent. And that's been incorporated into our 2.0 version mainnet, which is going to be launching in September.
Nice, nice. And you know what? This is my mistake, but I should have asked you to clarify first. First of all, can you talk about your role at Nulls for people that don't know who you are?
Sure. So I'm the director of the foundation. We established a foundation, Nuls Foundation, in San Jose, California, back in October of 2018. And so our original foundation is based out of Singapore, but we established here in the U.S. really to bring more community, more awareness, more investors, and more partners here in the U.S. So I'm responsible for their North American operation.
Nice. Is there anyone else in the North American team, or is it just kind of you right now?
We have a pretty small team, George. There's four of us. There's myself and Penny, who I think a lot of people know in our community. She's definitely nulsdeep. And then we
Yeah.
have an intern from San Jose State University. And then we also have our developer. Her name is Kathy Norman, and she's based here in San Jose as well. So we've got a technical team in the business side, but we're pretty reliant on our developers throughout Europe and China.
Nice, nice. I heard Nulls deep, so that's what this is. All right, cool. So, ever since I got involved or I learned about Nulls back in 2017, I knew it was a Generation 3 protocol blockchain. And, just doing research, reading a white paper, you could tell modular interoperability in mind, right? Cross-chain consensus, making it easy for developers to hop on board the blockchain and start developing. But since then, you guys have introduced Nulls 2.0, and that's the big talk of the town. So can you kind of clarify the differences or what has changed since 1.0 to 2.0, and why is it better?
Right. So I think, George, the biggest difference between 1.0 and 2.0 is this microservice architecture. And that it sounds like a developer term, but essentially what it means is we have different modules to build your basic blockchain. That's consensus and ledger accounts. And when we built 1.0, those were not decoupled enough. They really weren't going to give us the ability for Chain Factory, which is really going to be a a pick and drag type solution where you can build your own blockchain really easy. They were too independent on each other. So now with microservice, that really decouples those modules, which allows users to build a custom blockchain. And that, of course, will be folded into Chain Factory, which we're going to alpha test in September. And Chain Factory is really, it's a user interface that makes it easy for users to understand how to build a blockchain.
So is it more, when you say user interface, a GUI interface, is it more like just kind of like drag and drop, or is it that simple, or is there more to it than that?
It is actually. So right now, I mean, you can, we're building in beta right now. We have many partners both here in the US and outside the US, but it's Linux code. I mean, you have to, basically it's easy to use. I'm not a developer, but it's still easy to use, but it's a developer tool. But when we get to the next phase, which is going to be Chain Factory, it is going to be that simple. I mean, literally you can see it on your screen and be able to use the interface to, visually build a blockchain.
Awesome. All right. So I know that recently there's in terms of 2.0, there was talk about how it got kicked off, right? The upgrade was go commence. But I've been hearing about how it takes time, like all the nodes need to be upgraded. And then after that, I believe there's 30,000 blocks that need to, 30,000 blocks that need to happen, right? Is that, I mean, do you have any ETA on when everything's going to be complete? Is it this week, next week? Do you know?
Right. Well, that's a great question, and it is work in progress. I mean, we just launched the switchover, I believe, about 24 hours ago. So it's in progress. I've been monitoring it closely. We want to achieve a 90% switchover. That's what our goal is. At this very moment, I'm not sure what that percentage is, but it's getting close to that. So estimated, I mean, we'd like to have it done, this weekend, but it's not going to be 100% probably for another week or so. But
cool.
The network's working. It's in consensus. I just looked at our Nuls Explorer just a few minutes ago, and everything's fine. Blocks are being packed, so we're in good shape.
Awesome. That's always good. I know you guys did a lot of back end work, doing the test net and everything. So it's going smoothly. I'm assuming, right? No problem so far.
It is going smoothly. Yes.
Nice. All right. So the other big news, and this is really a lot of people has been asking me on my channel. Everyone's asking about this, and I'm not exaggerating. Is this new concept of staking, and that is the SCO. Now, 2017, obviously, ICO was the big thing. There's billions of dollars being put into ICOs. Obviously, that has changed since 2017. 2018, 2019, kind of IEOs try to become popular, but it doesn't seem like it's very successful. People are essentially still taking a risk, right? Exchanging their BTC or even BNB or whatever in this case for tokens that may or may not do well. And that's where SCOs just seem like it's the best of both worlds. In terms of risk for a staker, there's really none. You still get to you stake your nulls, you still get to keep it. It's not like you lost it. There's no lockup period. And you get to get tokens of the projects that you want to support. So can you speak to SEOs a little bit? Like, where did this idea come from? Because it's actually really revolutionary. A lot of people's asking about it. And, when does it actually officially kick off?
Right. Well, that's a great question, and George, we're really excited about SCO, and I think it's gotten some really good media coverage. So let's start from the beginning. How did it get started? So the way it got started was, we're a community-driven project. We're a public open source project, so we are slowly and actually more aggressively turning the entire project over to the community. So eventually, the core team will be all just community. So, but when we wanted to attract developers to Nuls to really dedicate to developing, what we did is they would spin up a node and then they would use those rewards to finance themselves, essentially, so that they could dedicate themselves to Nuls full time. So in that protocol, our consensus protocol, POC, allows for that. So with with that, it was kind of the concept. And then Aleph came along. Aleph is the first project that's launched on SEO. And it's the same principle. So you have a developer who has a project in this case called Aleph, and he needs to be rewarded to develop that project, right? To pay his expenses. So in this instance, what we did is you write a smart contract with certain parameters, and we have templates around it for that, what we call project node, or it's actually called POCM node, but we call it SEO now. And the project keeps the nulls to benefit the project and the development of that project. And then in return, the staker gets NRC20 tokens, which in that case are Aleph tokens, which at some point will on-ramp onto hopefully an exchange or VCs. But I do want to be clear though about SEOs. SEO is not a long-term funding mechanism really. It's to take a project that has a white paper, a really good team that we've done due diligence on, that has high growth potential, has a good token economic plan that will be attractive to investors. And it gets them from a white paper to the next step, which may be an exchange listing, it may be a VC that wants to invest in it, but it's not a long term. It's more of a bridge to the next step.
Interesting. So what would you consider would be the long term after they have established themselves?
Right. So we've set up a organization called, our participant in the organization, it's called SEO Lab. SEO Lab is made up of various incubators, venture capital companies, some exchanges, advertising and marketing and media companies. And the process is, if you decide to spin up an SEO node for your project, you'll do an AMA or an interview and pitch your project to the SEO Lab, and then they will support it. Maybe not all of them. Some of them may support it from, maybe they want to give you a direct funding, infusion, or it's an exchange that says, hey, we just had a project recently that interviewed that some of the exchanges are excited about possibly taking it from SEO to an IEO, or they're interested in the media companies are saying, hey, we'll support this from a marketing and media perspective too. So we realized that SEO wasn't going to be successful just based on community. We have a strong community, and they supported Aleph, and they'll continue to support our projects. But just limiting it to community wasn't enough. So now we've opened it up kind of to the universe, if you will. And we're also engaged with some US partners that are in the media and incubators to also generate more interest here in the States.
It just sounds like it's a win-win for pretty much everyone. I mean, you guys really thought about it really well. I'm just really impressed by it. So when is you mentioned the first company is Aleph, is that right?
That's right.
Is there any anticipated second or third company that's coming along anytime soon?
Yes, very, very soon. Can't give you an exact date, but I would say definitely before the end of this month, there'll be some announcements about some more SEOs being launched. Probably at least, I would say, between 1 and 3.
Wow.
And the idea really is we've got a very robust pipeline right now of new prospects. I mean, that's what I do all day long I'm just reviewing new projects. And, we've done our own, proactive business development, but now we have a lot of incoming projects that want to get involved, not only with just SEO, but Chainbox, which is one of our modules to get a blockchain launched pretty quickly. And then we have Factory coming out. So there's a lot of technical interest, but also the business side of it too. So we're going to have a steady stream of new projects.
So that's pretty interesting. So you're vetting these companies that's really interested. Can you share, like, on average in a week, in a month, how many companies are actually coming to you and saying, hey, we're really interested about running a SEO on Nuls?
Right. I would say before the announcement, the official announcement came out about 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. I mean, I'm talking to many firms every day, or startups every day, and some of those are really early stages. They're all at various stages of development. But now, I mean, my inbox is loaded. My LinkedIn requests are up. I was at a DeFi conference in San Francisco last Thursday, and I was just inundated with interest. So to give you a number, it's kind of hard to say. But I know just me personally in the States, I have 4 projects right now that I'm getting to the point where I'm going to be introducing them to the SEO lab, and we'll see where it goes from there. And then Asia, of course, we're so much more established in Asia. So we have projects coming in the pipeline.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's very exciting. The interest is definitely there. Like I said, I mean, so many people are asking me about it, so it's really good to hear about this. So I mean, here's something that I'm noticing right away, and I think you're probably the perfect guy to talk to this because this is more of a business thing. Like there's a lot of projects I cover, and a lot of projects throughout 2018, even in 2019, are struggling financially. And a lot of these companies, in terms of market cap, is much, much bigger than Nuls. We're talking about some that are multi-billions, yet on their webpage, they would have, hey, you know what? We need donations to continue support or development of our project. And it strikes me weird that multi-billion-dollar companies, crypto projects, would be asking for donations. But you take a look at someone like Nuls, which you guys have done really well in terms of development since 2017 to now. Everything, from 1.0 to 2.0, Chain Factory, now SEOs. Absolutely no problems, right? So how are you guys doing this? Obviously, you're getting funding, right? So how are you guys making this work?
Right. Well, that's a great question, George, too. And, I can't speak to other projects, but, I mentioned to you, like, for instance, in the US, I mean, we run a pretty tight crew, right? And and one of the things about Nuls that has been, kind of a double-edged sword, we have not spent much money on marketing in the past, and that's common knowledge. And rather than, having an ICO, we never had an ICO. So we spent all the money that we did raise was spent on coding, development. I mean, you look at our GitHub commits, I mean, we're right up there with Ethereum, for goodness sakes. And so we're kind of like the best kept secret, unfortunately, right now. But now we've come out and we're starting to market more and more because now we have a product. So while a lot of other projects spend a lot of money on hype, we spend a lot of money on real coding. So we have a product. It's deep. It's significant, and now we're talking about it on the media. So yeah, we've been good. It's been good treasury management. Our team in China, really, she manages our CEO, and she's done a great job of really managing the budget. So we haven't had a need to go out there and make any kind of pleas for more money. So yeah, it's worked out good for us.
Yeah, that's good. So here's an old partnership, and I don't know if there's anything you can't speak to about it, but I remember early on, you guys did get an investment from the mining company Bitmain. Are you guys still involved with them, or have the relationship dissolved?
Right. So I mean, very early on, in fact, going back to 2017, we did receive some funding from Bitmain. At about that same time, we got listed on this small exchange called Binance at the time, and that helped us out tremendously, of course.
Right.
And so yes, Bitmain, I think I wasn't here at the time, but they were somewhat active in Nuls. I think since then, that was kind of like a one-time investment. And at least from my day-to-day involvement in the foundation, I don't interact with Bitmain much, but they did make that investment. What precisely happened with that investment afterwards, I know it was used to fund our initial startup, but I'm not sure. They're not actively involved as far as I know right now.
Okay. I know they had their own problems, but yeah, I mean, you mentioned Binance, it's like, it's only been a few years, but Binance is like the top exchange now, crypto exchange in the world. Crypto companies struggle mightily to get listed in Binance these days. It's like you got to jump through 100 hoops. So it's great that Nuls got in and some of these other companies got in early. Yet is still performing and is still doing well. So that's luck of the draw, I guess.
Very fortunate to have Right.
I have emails from their very first marketing people, right? Like really poor English and stuff like that. And at the time, I'm looking at it, I'm like, who are these guys? And then it just kind of exploded really quick.
I think back then, I've heard stories anyway that, we actually, some of our founders were exchanging emails directly with CZ when we were getting listed. So I don't think that would happen today, probably.
Yeah. All right. So kind of speaking to how well you guys are doing, but I want to give you a chance to answer some of the critics, because a lot of people did get involved with Nuls back in 2017, especially during the bubble, right? The bubble where everything went up like 10x within a month. And Nuls is down quite significantly since its all-time highs, right? But obviously you guys are still performing, but there's a lot of critics out there like, this project is so down, they're probably dead. I don't want to consider them. What do you say to those critics that have been pretty much scared out due to pricing? But what do you say to those guys?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, George. And I'm sure Nulls is not the only, project that gets those questions.
Right,
no. For all of 2018, bro, the tail end of it anyway. So, yeah, I mean, I think as I could speak for all the Nulls team, we take a lot of pride that we survived, the winter, the crypto winter. To those that are critical, I think some of the criticism is very, justified. I mean, we did not market. But marketing in a down market, if you have good news, it didn't do anything to Null's, value. If you had bad news, it didn't do anything to Null's value. So it really would have been a waste of money. So we decided, and I guess to those people that are critical, I would say, look at GitHub, look at the product, look at the new partners that we're bringing in. And now that we are marketing, look at the response we're getting. So I think, like I said earlier, I think Nuls is just one of the best kept secrets there is, and we have a viable technology that's well developed. And I would just encourage people just to hang on. Yeah, I think it's still a great investment, and it's a great project.
Okay. So if you take a look at the landscape, and there's a lot more. When Nuls was first coming out, and 2018, beginning of 2018, I mentioned Generation 3 protocol, right? A blockchain that can scale, that has side chains, cross-chain, communication, interoperability, and so forth, right? But since 2017, now there's a lot more projects coming out that has similar properties. Do you see any competitors that really lines up with Nuls, or do you think Nuls still has that competitive advantage in terms of what you guys are offering with microservices and chain factory and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a great question too. And I think, one of the things I say to people is, this space is so small, right? First of all, it's hard to say that we have competitors. We're all kind of like brothers and sisters in this whole creation of this new space, right? So there are some projects out there that look similar to Nuls and what they say and what they're doing. Especially when you talk about modularity and cross-chain. But some of these other projects, and again, I don't want to sling mud. We're all in this together. But some of those other ones that have those solutions, they're only one part of Null's complete solution package. I mean, we have multiple solutions like Chainbox, which is an out-of-the-box chain solution. We have Chain Factory, which is this modular repository and user interface. We have cross-chain consensus that we're working on. So some of those projects may just have one of those, but we have a complete suite of those modules. So it's much more comprehensive.
Okay, nice. So general things. Are you, obviously you're part of an Nuls team, but are you a hodler? Do you invest in Bitcoin and cryptos? Can you speak to that? I'm just curious in terms of.
I have no problem speaking to that. So, yeah, I mean, I got into this space. I got into this space in 2016 through my career position, and I was working with a firm that was in supply chain management, specifically anti-counterfeiting in the drug industry. So that's how I was introduced to blockchain. But then again, of course, I started, seeing what was happening in the space in terms of the value going up in the whole and I got caught up into it. And so yeah, I was an early investor in Nuls, and I bought, like you mentioned, the peak of Nuls. I bought in January of 2018 as an investor. So
Right.
Of course, I hold Nulls. Absolutely, I would never sell those. I am totally staked in Nulls. I'm a big believer in our staking, and it's a great, easy way to earn, more Nulls. And other cryptocurrency right now, George, I must say I've pretty much consolidated my portfolio. I'm pretty much all in Bitcoin and all in Nulls, big time Nulls. So. Probably similar to hopefully you.
Yes, I think most people are along those lines. At least consolidation into Bitcoin, because right now it's just Bitcoin is just dominant and it's just sucking up the altcoins. But altcoin season will come, and I definitely think Knowles is in a really good position. Obviously, you mentioned marketing, and also just overall what you guys bring to the space now. You're completely ready, so definitely think you guys will do very well in this upcoming altcoin season. I guess that's really most of my questions, actually all my questions. In terms of final thoughts, is there anything that you just want to add, tell my audience or tell anyone that's watching this about Nulls, or anything that you want to share?
Yeah, I'll just say two things. One, I mentioned this earlier, George. I think one of the things that has made Nulls successful is our community. Our community is unbelievably strong, and I mean that from just people that stake in Nulls, that invest in Nulls, our developers. I mean, we have a team of about 12 now full-time developers that are community. We believe in the community, and they have given us tremendous support. And if you ever go into our community channels, it can get pretty controversial, but they always keep coming back. And I just want to thank our community. And back to what you said too, Nulls is just totally poised to be there when alt season hits. But we're not waiting for it. We're just keeping our heads down and plowing forward and building the best product that we can.
Awesome. Well, that's it. So thank you for the short notice interview, David. This was a pleasure. Yeah. And hopefully those of you guys are watching this, you've learned a lot about Nulls. So look into it. Thank you, David, once again.
Thank you, George. I enjoy your show very much. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Hopefully, you guys learned a thing or two from this interview. There's a lot of exciting things. It sounds like there's a lot of projects that's looking to come on board and take advantage of SEO, and Nulls is definitely trying to market themselves, which is positive. Are you Nulls deep or are you Nulls shallow? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you smash the like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And check out this other video that you may have missed and you don't want to miss it.